Hi, my name is Sammy and I'm a registered nutritionist and intuitive eating coach, and I specialise in metabolic syndrome. So this is basically a problem which affects many people, not just in the UK, the US, westernised countries, but globally. And through my travels and my time living in different countries around the world, I realised that this is a problem which is so endemic and it's causing a huge burden on our healthcare systems, a huge amount of pain and suffering for people. And it's something that I really feel passionate about, educating others around and also helping others to realise that actually they have the power to heal themselves with the right dietary and lifestyle choices. So my podcast is an outlet for me to educate you and also people that you know in your circle. So if you like this podcast, please share it with others, where we can raise awareness around the problems of metabolic syndrome, metabolic diseases, which are dietary related. And then hopefully help to reduce the prevalence of these diseases within our communities, within our families, and hopefully it will help to save lives as well. So metabolic syndrome really is a huge issue globally, and the reason for that is the increase in highly processed and ultra processed foods, but also the increase in a sedentary lifestyle. So many people are living in a way which does not mean that they actually need to consume more calories. We actually need to be consuming less calories, really. But unfortunately, a lot of the food that we eat has been highly processed and changed from its original form so that it actually doesn't really resemble its original ingredients. And these types of foods actually can really affect your metabolism and the way that your body uses its processes to remove fat from the blood, but also to remove sugar from the blood. So around 63% of adults in the United Kingdom have obesity or they're overweight. And this is one of the criteria for metabolic syndrome. Globally, there is huge issues. There's around 45% of people, of adults globally, who are suffering with obesity. And this is one of the risk factors of metabolic syndrome. So let me just explain to you a little bit about what metabolic syndrome is. So it's a collection of symptoms which you have probably heard of before. They're pretty common. So those symptoms are high blood pressure, high LDL cholesterol, low HDL cholesterol, high triglycerides, which means the fat in the blood basically, and also insulin resistance or prediabetes as it's called. So if a person has 3 of these criteria, then they are classed as having metabolic syndrome. And like I said before, this is a very common situation for many people to be in. And actually quite often, lots of people, they don't realise that they actually have metabolic syndrome. Around 1 in 4 adults in the UK have metabolic syndrome, and they don't actually know that they have it quite often. So this is one of the reasons why I want this podcast to be out there, so that people can learn about it, realise that this is a problem, and then try to do something about it. Metabolic syndrome can really lead to many other types of health problems. It's one of the risk factors for increased likelihood of stroke, increased likelihood of cardiovascular disease, and also it's been related to vascular dementia or Alzheimer's. Insulin resistance can cause problems in the blood vessels, and this causes damage to the inside of the blood vessels. And there is a strong correlation or relationship between metabolic syndrome and the generation of Alzheimer's disease later in life. So why is metabolic syndrome a problem? Well, first of all, usually it causes a decrease in the quality of somebody's life. So if you are over the age of 50, you're much more likely to be suffering with metabolic syndrome. And if you have metabolic syndrome, then you are usually suffering with chronic pain somewhere in your body. You are usually immobile or less mobile than you could be. And usually you are suffering with some symptoms of like mental health issues. It could be anxiety, depression, and also just a general feeling of aging as well, because when you're less mobile, it does make you feel like you're getting older. So my mission really, through my podcast and also through my business, Natural Nutrition, where I work with clients to help them to heal their bodies naturally using food and dietary choices, is really to raise awareness around this particular disorder or this syndrome, and to help people to understand that this is a preventable disease. This is not a disease that you have to live with for the rest of your life. This is a disease that is usually caused by your dietary choices, the dietary choices that you've made maybe for the last 20 or 30 years in your life. And actually, just because you have these issues, it doesn't mean that you can't change it. And I really want to empower people and help them to realize that they have control over this. They don't have to live a life taking medication. They don't have to live a life of pain and suffering, and maybe potentially an early death as well. What you actually can do is you can reverse the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And I think that that's really, really important to understand, is that this is a reversible disease. And I'm passionate to help people to really understand that, and to help them to learn how to do that, how to eat differently, how to make different choices, how to prepare food, how to maybe shorten their feeding window. And I will go on to talk about some of those things in later episodes. So today, really, the purpose of this first episode is just to welcome you and to introduce myself to you, but also to just start to get you to think about, is there somebody in your life who you know that has metabolic syndrome that would benefit from listening to this? Maybe you yourself has some of the symptoms that I described earlier, and you maybe are thinking, I might now go and see my GP, or I might need to change something. And I'm guessing that if you're listening to this podcast, you're already interested in learning about ways that you can actually improve your health and your quality of life. So that's all I have for today. This is just a short one to introduce myself and to explain a little bit about metabolic syndrome. And I'm really looking forward to sharing much, much more information with you in the future, and listening to your comments. Please, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with other people, but also you can comment below as well. And I'm really looking forward to sharing my knowledge and my wisdom around this with you over the next few episodes. Thanks for listening. Take care. Goodbye.